represent. Thank you.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much. Take care.
Awesome. Take care. Cheers. I'll talk to you soon. All right. So we have up next my next guest is Sally Reed. She is a hypersensitive person empowerment coach. Now, Sally has the unique life experience that she was initiated by surviving two near-death experiences herself. And not unlike a radioactive spider bite, they awaken some really unique gifts in Sally. Sally can see and manipulate energy and has for the last 14 years been helping people discover and clear their most stubborn illnesses and issues simply by transitioning their energy, by shifting their energy. And this is really an area that Sally has specialized in. And we are thankful to have her join us today to talk about this kind of work and how it can impact people in business. Welcome, Sally. Sally? We get Sally? There she is. Welcome, welcome. I think we have you on there. Are you on mute? Let's see. Oh, you are a little muted. Okay. Yep, right? We got this. We got this. Oh, Sally is out of Nashville and I'm here in Atlanta. So it was really interesting as we had the recent storms this year. The tornadoes rushed through the area and it's been an interesting time. You are unmuted. Okay. And we are not getting volume through. Let's see. Maybe you want to join again? We could try that. Yeah, let's try it. Let's go for it. Bye. All right. Oh, always a good time. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. The just thinking about the previous piece that we hit on branding, you don't really think about how specific your north is, right? And how specific the details of your business are. But it's so helpful. Let's see if we get Sally's
I'm
sound.
here.
Yes, you are. Yay, we get your sound on. How are you?
Yay. I wonder what that was about. Never know, do we?
I don't know, but you know what? You're here now, and I'm so thankful you are. Sally, great intro as I think about all the people that you have helped in your work, and you really do have many, many who you have helped and served. As we think about business, I want to kind of ask you an opening question, Sally, and that was really just around how you feel love and leadership go hand in hand, how you've seen that maybe in your own business, or have you seen that in the businesses of those that you have helped consult?
Well, you know what's interesting? I just got off a session just 20 minutes ago, not gonna lie, where, and this might make me tear up because, by the way, if you're highly sensitive, tears flow just randomly for no darn good reason. Just gonna say. But anyway, I was speaking to a man in Dubai who has, like a lot of people in Dubai, a lot of money. And he also is, running a number of companies. He runs a number of companies. And his huge complaint was not about the way he ran his companies, but it was the way his family relationships were. He could run his companies with love and caring, but the minute he started to have his family relationships, he felt like it wasn't safe for him to open up his heart because he is a highly sensitive person. And it all came down to his center core being of how much love he got when he was a kid. And it's hard to believe how much those core patterns really, really, I mean, he's an amazing man in business, but when he gets in the house, it just changes. And this happens to so many people. You're somebody at work and you're somebody else at home. And who you are at home was who you learned to be as a kid, essentially. And so my goal is to help marry the two you can be that badass at home too.
Yeah, I can tell you, Sally, having lived that, right? First of all, having lived 10 years in the closet, actually many more years before marriage, you kind of develop the ability to have this version of Helmut and this other version of Helmut. And then even after coming out, then there was the people who knew and the people who don't, or the people who are in this scene and there aren't in this scene, and really bringing yourself together as a whole person makes it so much better at work, in business.
Everywhere. And you know what it comes down to? It's amazing you said love. And to a person, everybody's going to raise their hands and say me. We came down to a core belief that I only deserve love when I act in a certain way. And this is so common and painful. And it's shockingly, with the methods that I use, easy to uncover, easy to confront, and easy to let go of. Because when we were kids, we get overwhelmed. And so we create this rule so we can stay safe. And we know that it's easier for us to change than it is for us to change the whole big wide world. So we're going to add layer upon mask, upon action, upon anything until eventually we lose ourselves. And it's just devastating. And that was the word he used, devastating.
Yeah, it's like we're covered up in a shell, right? Of all these things that we layer ourselves to protect ourselves from. Um, I don't know if you know that more, I think kids are geniuses. Like 97% scores geniuses in like 4 or
Until
5 years old. Yeah. And then they're
until
like
they go to
only,
school.
yeah. And then like 7% when they leave. So it's clearly a
Yeah.
process of becoming. Tell us a little bit about hypersensitive people and what does that mean? I think when I met you was the first time I really understood that this was even a nomenclature. How would I know that I'm one of these individuals, and how do you work with those individuals, and what's that like?
Well, people can become sensitive for a number of reasons. Number one, you can suffer a lot of trauma, and so therefore you are sensitive, you're on high alert. But then there's a whole nother class of people, which is it's literally a genetic difference. It is, I mean, like, you process dopamine at the cellular level differently than every other non-sensitive person. And and a good way to show an example of this is, we all know, and this is across all mammals, and some people are starting to say it's across the entire animal kingdom. You don't have to be a mammal. You can be a reptile and be sensitive. But I know it's hard to believe. But the thing is, you're going to notice that you smell. I mean, like, when you walk into a room, you smell that, everybody goes, no. Or you hear that sound and nobody hears it, like different sounds bother you. You're more sensitive to the feelings and pressures of others. Judgment hurts you. Rejection, devastating. And the thing that's going on right now is like this world chaos feeling, this emotional issue of people, like the election, the fires, the wars, Gaza. It just becomes, you can feel the emotional temperature of the world around you. And that is a genetic difference. So here's an example. Everybody knows a dog that if you just whisper, that dog is up, right? We all know that dog, right? But then we also know the dog where you're like, poke, poke, poke. Hey, I'm talking to you, dog. Can you move? That is the difference between a highly sensitive and a non-highly sensitive. Or the horse. You've seen these horses jumping and bouncing around the world, or the others that are just non-reactive. It's not that the other 80% of the world is non-reactive. It's just that they process the stimuli in a different way from the highly sensitive people. And so if somebody tells you to stop being so damn sensitive, you can smile sweetly and say, I'm sorry. It's the way I'm made.
How if I'm leading employees or dealing with clients, then some of them may be hypersensitive people, right? They may require more delicate approach, or how could I support them potentially?
Well, here's some of the things you're going to notice. We can't put everybody in a box, just like every human is different and it's all on a spectrum. We're going to stipulate that as fact, because that is essentially, people want to box people up. And I'm a firm believer in everybody is their own individual and nobody is the same as anybody else. So if you are dealing with employees and some of them seem to be a little more reactive, people pleasing, understand that it might be a trauma response, but it also might be a way to protect themselves from your feelings. And so do what one always does. You start low and go high. You don't have to come in, pistols firing it right at the beginning. So if you want to single somebody out that you believe might be highly sensitive, you definitely want to do it in private. If you want to have a question, try to say words like I noticed rather than you did. Try to take, like you don't want to do a lot of finger pointing, you don't want to do a lot of pressure, and you certainly don't want to do a lot of hyper management. Because another thing you'll notice with HSPs is they're really smart, they're really fast, and they've got 15 things noticing all at the same time. And if you put one more thing on them, they might break. So you want to say when you have a chance, or, like you don't want to hyper watch them. You give them a task, and this is super important. Let them know what the ending looks like, y'all. And this is good for anybody. Hey, I want you to do this task. This is how you know you're done. I want you to do this task, and I don't need to tell you how to get there unless you need direction, but the outcome will be this. That is how you manage people with respect. You give them the task, and it works especially well with highly sensitive people because they tend to be self-starters. They tend to know what they want, or, want to figure out what you want. And they also tend to be hyper vigilant to get it done properly and on time as you expect them to. I love hiring highly sensitive people, but hey, I'm a highly sensitive person.
No,
So.
absolutely. I actually found what you're saying is absolutely accurate, right? So having managed thousands of employees, the ones that were often hypersensitive had extremely capable gifts because of their intuition and
Yes.
because of their ability to see detail or manage to detail. But therefore, you needed to create a highly safe workspace, a highly safe work environment, right? And lots of questions, and lots of patience because they required the space for that.
Well, the interesting thing about having an employee, all people fit into certain boxes in how they want to fit into a group, right? And I said the word box because it's a role. There are people who want to be the leader, there's people who want to be the loner, there's people that want to be partnered, there's people who want all these other things. So you simply need to suss out how they work best, and a lot of times people don't know that. And that's why, believe it or not, most of the world's best and brightest leaders are highly sensitive people themselves.
I
I'm
believe
just going to
that.
say that.
I was going to say as well, it's interesting, Sally. I was thinking about, when I think about the most effective leaders, you almost lead with the most sensitive person in mind, meaning you're almost anticipating, as I now say, we're going to shift this. What are all the possible fears? What are all the possible anxious moments that people could have, right? And I prepare my Q&A, right? I prepare that conversation as I think of my hypersensitive person as potentially the person I really want to gear the conversation for, and then everyone else falls in the middle.
But you also have to be strong. You also have to say, I train horses, and so that's the best example I have. Horses are, by default, super sensitive. You wave their hand and their heads are like this, right? So when you are creating an outcome, let's just say that's what a leader does. A leader creates an outcome. When you are creating an outcome, you also want to be able to prevent forward motion in a direction that is not correct. So you don't want to crush somebody. And so for a horse, you simply say, wait, or you train them to turn so they look at you, or that it's a dance. That's what's so amazing about a great company where you have a leader who will empower others to work. They also, it's conducting an orchestra. That's a fine example. The leader has empowered you to work, but you have to watch. You get it? You're not a machine. You watch, you're playing your own beautiful part. That's what leading highly sensitive people are. If the conductor puts his baton down, like, you better stop, everybody stop, man. Right?
Right. No, absolutely. Now tell me, if you were to coach someone on managing themselves as a hypersensitive leader, right? If I know that that's who I am, what would you suggest to anyone who's listening, who's thinking of, hey, that might be me?
Well, I want to stipulate the first thing is fact, for the court, let me present. It is always you in relation to everybody else. So you are the only person you can manage. You cannot manage other people. You must manage you in relation to somebody else. So if you are bringing your BS into your decision making, it's going to reflect like a mirror from every other person you manage. So just like I helped this man today, I helped him understand how he was reflecting his own issues and his family was going ahead and mirroring it back. So that's what I would say to a highly sensitive leader. It's not about your leadership. It's about you in relation to your leadership. And so when you want to come up, and people call it shadow work. I don't call it shadow work. I'm calling it, it's all okay, and I'm okay with it. That's what shadow work is. You don't have to dredge out your deepest and darkest and, ruin an entire box of tissues. No, that's not what shadow work is. That's therapy. Totally different. What I do is we take the issues that you excised about your personality that are causing, shall I say, bumps in the road. And we open them up and say, hey, you want to keep this? No? Okay, let's get rid of it. And you open that one, oh, no, this is exactly what I did today. We found a rule that he had, and everybody has rules of the road, right? We developed them before age 6. We
Right.
found a rule that was inhibiting him from fully expanding into his amazing intuitive self. And that's to a person. You don't have to be a highly sensitive person to do that. Everybody has those. It's just highly sensitive people tend to have more.
Yeah, they tend to have more, but they've learned more along the way, or they've been hurt more, as you said, from a trauma perspective, right?
Well, like we've all seen a beautiful magnolia flower. Have we not? Have you seen them? Where it seems like if you just breathe on them funny, they're going to turn brown, right? That is a highly sensitive child. And it's not that their parents went around to do something. It's just that they stumble around and can get hurt so effortlessly. And it's what they decide that moment meant, not necessarily what happened. And so we uncover that. And we find, you in relation to yourself. You excise that area. That's why they call it a shadow. You said, oh, that didn't get me what I needed in this world. So I need to stop that. And I believe this about it. And so therefore it became a shadow. And when you start looking at life like that, it totally demystifies, all these isms and everything. No, she got a bruise. She avoids that bruise. And now, because she avoids that bruise, she's developed this workaround that is getting in the freaking way. And that's all.
Simply
Yes.
put. Simply put. So how, I guess when I think about identification, we talked about sort of like as a leader, right?
Mhm.
What I can do for myself. When I'm dealing with people on my team or encouraging people on my team who are hypersensitive, you said very kind of like clear communication, right?
Outcomes are important.
Right. How do I get the most out of someone who's hypersensitive? How do I encourage the most productivity? What do I do to get their greatness?
Oh, that's a great question. So here's the first thing you need to notice. If you have a person who is just new in the position, they're going to be moving very slowly and very carefully. Most people do. I mean, that's a duh. But you also want to notice the team dynamics around that person, because that is the most important. How you get the most is that they need to feel safe inside your team. They need to feel empowered to make decisions that affect the outcome of their work inside the team. It's not uncommon that highly sensitive people are bullied at work. I had a client who was a doctor, and the nurses were bullying her. Like, girl, you're the doctor. Oh, yeah, I forgot. That's the thing, is you're going to find that a highly sensitive person, through whatever reason why they haven't chosen to engage their power, needs to feel safe, to empower themselves. So that's the first step. I would notice anybody who's holding back, who you think, protect them, honor them, say, I give you permission to. You have no idea how much that means to somebody, for the leader to say, go for it.
Yeah, I will share this. I have led teams of developers, QA, UX designers, product leaders, and they tend to fall in this category, Sally.
Yes, they do.
Right? They tend to be, and it's so funny because you think of like the curmudgeon-y engineer, like, oh, I'm like back in the, and they're usually musicians, right? They have these backgrounds, and then they are extremely sensitive, meaning they really do care about how you said it, when you said it, why you didn't. It was late. You said it was going to be this time. You sent it 5 minutes later. Like the sensitivity, especially if it's not safe, right? I don't know if this is helpful to anyone who's listening, but I found personally that creating a safe space for feedback was so helpful, where it was like, no, we're literally going to talk about, you don't like to get it later. Right? Like that, you need a safe space to say, I have a problem with getting things late. Even if it's a couple minutes, don't say it unless you can, right? Like even just the space to say what's bugging you, and then the space to actually be able to lovingly embrace if that's what that person needs. In an engineering team of 150 people where you need to get stuff done, stopping and creating those operating spaces, right? For people to get to share and get to be known, their sensitivities known. It's a thing. It's not something I think people really realize.
It's a huge thing, but the interesting thing, and you said it earlier, is when you allow the highly sensitive person to fully expand into their intuitive leaps, because that's their gift. I mean, you have to think about the purpose of having 20% of the population of being hyper noticing, hypersensitive. It kept the other 80% alive. It decided new food sources. Think about it. So when you are managing a team of highly sensitive people, they're going to be hypersensitive to making mistakes. They're going to be hypersensitive to disappointment, to negative feedback, to criticism. And so if you set up, number one, a safe space, but two, in advance, put up the fence. You work within this area and you're free to work. It's just like having a fence around a playground. Those kids run all over the place, but take away the fence and they're like, oh no, what do I do? You get it? They need to know that they have a fence, an area of free range. That's one of the first things you want to do with your highly sensitive person. But yes, make it a safe space, protect their genius.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I was reminded about a rule in Boy Scouting that we had. It was really a rule in hiking. You always ran the hikes according to your slowest hiker, right? Because you want to make sure you all got there together. No one was left behind. And if you think about what you're sharing about, Sally, really, when you think of the highly sensitive person, you're thinking about the boundaries in which everyone's going to be able to play well, right? They are going to be at their maximum. I'm not saying they're slower. In some ways they're faster, right? So,
yes.
But when you're making sure the boundaries for the workplace are in an area, or you've thought about your clients that way, right? If you always go in assuming that this might be who they are, you want to unlock their best potential, right? Then you've created the best space for everyone to be in, really. So to your point,
That's
right?
true.
Yeah.
What's interesting is you said, if you assume, and this is something to a person about a highly sensitive person, and even if they don't know they're highly sensitive, they are going to feel the pressures of other people's judgments / assumptions / projections upon them more than any other person. And what do I mean by that? People talk about energetic projections. I did this for years without knowing it, that I would walk through the world and I could feel all of a sudden emotional up, all of a sudden emotional down, all of a sudden, move this way, move that. I couldn't figure out, why am I such an emotional roller coaster? Well, it's because I was walking through the freaking Walmart. That's why. And I'd walk through a cloud, an energetic cloud of other people's emotional energy, because everything is a vibration. Sound is a vibration. We cannot change the fact that energy is a vibration at its essence. And the difference between a highly sensitive person or a traumatized person and someone who is just your regular old standard issue human is that you're going to notice those clouds a lot faster than anybody else.
Which can be a strength, especially in leadership, because you are able to then see, right? You can see what others can't see.
Yes.
I think it's so funny because the marriage of things like this, like energy and frequency and this noticing that we're talking about, it happens all the time at work.
Nobody talks about
all the time. We just don't talk about it that way. But it's key to effective leadership. And especially if you're thinking about managing a client, right? A difficult client, managing a challenging employee,
or
managing
the state of Tennessee.
Yes, our whole team, the whole state of Tennessee. Exactly.
I had a client who was the director of a statewide agency. And she came to me specifically for team management because she was becoming overwhelmed by all of the crap that was in, because Tennessee is not a touchy-feely place at all.
Well, 80% of it.
Really, they're in charge.
Right. Well, hey, I want to thank you, Sally. I think our timer is off. We have like 2 more minutes. I want people to know what they can get if they work with you. I know you're giving us a freebie. Talk a little bit about what that is, and then just what people can know about working with you and what that's like. Because if this has resonated with you, I think Sally's the perfect person for you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, sorry, if you go look for the link. Do you have the link, Kelman? Okay.
Yeah, Adas will throw it in the link right now.
Oh, yep. Super, super, super. So what you'll get if you want to take advantage of the freebie is I am offering my time to give you that one thing that is in your way. And excuse me, I'm calling it a fine clarity session simply because you need to get clear about what is this one thing, this false rule that I was talking about earlier about the man from Dubai. Mm-hmm. He brought this rule, and remember, how you are in relation to yourself is how you are in relation to everything else. So this is their basis of you. And so you cannot change yourself unless you change that basic rule. I mean, you can put it from the outside in, but it makes it very hard. So I'll hand it to you in that session for free for the first 10 people.
That's so generous. Thank you.
But yes, it is, isn't it?
It really is. Because you know what? It is. And the whole point of this is that one change in you as a leader can be that one change that trickles into your business, trickles into your decisions with your clients or into other parts of your life. So thank you so much, Sally. Thank you for giving visibility to these types of employees and people. And as we think about being effective leaders in this world, I think knowing and remembering that this 20% is really, really important.
Oh, it is. And you know what? To end very quickly, I just finished working with a client whose business was about to tank. And she was ready to Harry carry herself, essentially. We worked with her. We found the fact that at every turn, she would say, I'd have this idea, but then no, I'm not allowed. And then long story short, this woman is completely different. And not only did her business change, she lost 30 pounds.
Wow.
30 pounds in the 3 months we were working together, just from the lack of stress. Her relationship with her husband changed. Her relationship with her family changed. Her relationship with herself changed. But most of all, her business tripled.
Wow. Incredible
It's you
what some
in
self-work
relation
can do, right?
to everything.
Well, thank you, Sally. I appreciate that. And definitely consider some time with her as she so graciously offered to all of our followers and viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
All
having me.
right.
I've had a wonderful time.
Good, good. It's been great to have you. All right. So real quick, before we bring up our next person, I just wanted to share, we're going to drop one link in the chat. We do have part of the initiative with the Gaily Impact is financial literacy. I don't know if you know that financial literacy is one of the #1 economic crises in the world, but one of the things I always share in these kinds of experiences is how important it is to know about money. You know, a lot of us here that are talking to you are offering you services, which is amazing, amazing investments and opportunities. But we also want to make sure you know how to use your money and how to use it wisely. I'm being joined, we have I'm dropping the link. There are actually 12 different sessions you can join throughout the year. It's actually this lovely lady on the screen is Kim Schooler. She wrote the book How Money Works for Women. She is my personal mentor as I push forward with making financial literacy a core platform in the LGBTQ community. Surprise, surprise, women helping my community is not a surprise. It's a very much a hallmark. And we'd love to have you, and we'll teach you several different things, the rule of 72, the 7 money milestones, just some great information for those of you who are interested.